Hello, everyone. It's me, Jeff, all by myself in my apartment. It has been a long time since we've published anything, and I still pay the bill to keep the servers online, so I figured, let me publish something, and I'm going to do something a little different than the regularly scheduled programming of television and films. I'm going to do something about video games. We got an email, actually, asking us if we ever did video game stuff, and I replied and said, yeah, we do, or we will. It's just, it's hard right now. All of my co-hosts are kind of indisposed at the moment. D just recently got out of the hospital. He was fighting some nasty stuff, and he's in my thoughts. Obviously, I love the man. He's one of my closest friends in the world. He is making a recovery. He'll be back with us very soon. I believe next week we're gonna try to record the new Violent Night movie that just came out. And then Troy, another one of my dearest friends, he just fucked off for a week on a cruise, so they're gone. And Chris fucking fucked off to the other side of the country earlier this year, so he's gone. It's hard to do anything at the moment. And I realized today that I hadn't published anything in almost a month. And that feels bad. So here I am putting something out there. If you listen to it, great. If not, whatever. This is more a therapy lesson, I guess. But I wanted to talk to you guys today about video games. And I'll throw the intro song in there. I'll pretend this is a production. TB&J! TB&J! Like PB&J. Anyway, so I'm all by my lonesome here, just recording a podcast, and I'm talking about video games today. And what I want to talk about is Batman Arkham Asylum and Hollow Knight. And here's the thing. I know what you're thinking. Those are old-ass games. Hollow Knight came out in February 2017. Arkham Knight was like 2009, I think. But here's the thing, right? So Hollow Knight is a game I've been playing a lot of lately, and it's fascinating. I played it around the time it first came out. I got it on my Nintendo Switch, and I fucking loved the hell out of that game. Played it all the way to the end. I never finished the final boss. Don't be mad at me. But I beat everything else in that game. It was fucking incredible. And then it was on Xbox Game Pass. And a couple weeks ago, I was like, fuck it. I'm going to play again. So I downloaded it, and I'm playing through again. I'm like 97% done. I just got to get a couple more charms. I got to beat the God Home DLC. And then go kick Radiance's ass. And then I'm good. Like, This game is fucking stellar. It was made by, a half dozen people, something stupid like that. It's a very small team. And the sequel, Silk Song, comes out next year, allegedly. And I'm very, very excited for that. If you know anything about Hollow Knight, you know that it's been widely praised. It's got blowjobs of reviews from every reputable source. It's an amazing, cute little Metroidvania. You're exploring this deep fucking world, and you unlock powers that allow you to access other areas of the world and keep going and battle bosses and collect charms that make your character behave differently and do special things, and you can do different builds to make yourself better against bosses or better at long expeditions where you have just an insanely high health pool or something. It's an amazing title. I highly recommend it to anybody that has any interest at all in casual gaming, because there's bosses that are tough. They are really tough, but you can just keep going over and over. You die, and then your ghost your shade, they call it in the game, stays in that room. You just go back to that room, kill your shade to get all your money back and refill your soul meter, and then you just try again. You just keep trying and trying and trying until you beat it. And when you do beat it, you feel this surge of awesomeness. You're like, yeah, I fucking did it. I'm the best. And you really do. You feel unstoppable. It's amazing. So Hollow Knight has taken over my world again whenever I'm playing games by myself. And then when I'm not playing games by myself, here's the other thing I want to talk about. My fiance and I, she's been on the show a couple times, we've started this new thing We started a couple months ago, where we go back and forth picking a game that we really, really love and showing it to each other by playing it together. So, like, I played through Red Dead 2 again. I did my 100% run recently, and Red was kind of behind me on the couch watching over my shoulder most of the time, and she really got into the story. It got to the point where I couldn't do any story missions unless she was sitting there on the couch with me. And I thought that was a really, really sweet moment we would share together. So when I finished Red Dead, she was like, hey, can I show you a game I really like? And she showed me the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, I completely missed the Final Fantasy train. I completely missed the Kingdom Hearts train. Never played any of those games, but I understand their cultural significance. I understand, like, Cloud and the Buster Sword are, like, icons of gaming at this point, right? So we're playing through the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I completely bought into this story. It was incredible. I was fully on Team Avalanche, right there with Barrett and Jesse and Tifa and Wedge and Biggs. I was so sold on all of this. They did a great job on these characters and making you really care about them and their struggles and the world that they were building around them on this place called Midgar, with all of these plates and the slums and this evil electric company called Shinra that drains the Mako from the planet that powers all of our casual electronics and such. It's a very thinly veiled metaphor for oil production in the world. But that's part of the reason why my fiance loved it so much, is because she's big on the environment. So it really struck a chord with her. And then seeing Cloud go through this character development in the beginning where he doesn't give a shit about anything or anyone. He just wants to get paid. And now all of a sudden at the end, he's right there alongside Barrett. And Shinra. They're fighting. It's a really, really compelling story all the way through. And I didn't realize a lot of this, but my fiance was telling me as we were playing, the whole remake is about the first 2, 3, maybe 4 hours of the original game. Like, the first time you sit down and play Final Fantasy 1, and you sit there for a good couple hours grinding, you'll probably hit the end of the content that's in the remake. Because there's just so much untapped potential that they left on the table for the Final Fantasy VII original game that they were able to fully go into now in the remake. Like, there's a part in the game very early on where you blow up one of the reactors that takes Mako out of the ground, and the corporation Shinra decides to blow it up even bigger. They lean into it and blow up their own reactor so that they have a big thing to blame on Avalanche. And there's just mass carnage and chaos all over the area. And in the original, they kind of gloss right over it. But in the remake, they make you walk through all of that carnage. All of those broken vehicles and structures everywhere. They really hammer it home. Like, this is fucked up. This is absolutely disgusting. And we, as the character, like the omnipotent, player character, we know what Shinra did. The characters don't. The Jessie, one of the members of Avalanche, she blames herself. She thinks, oh, I fucked up the bomb, and I absolutely destroyed all these people's lives. Like, this is all my fault. And they really elaborate on that. They really hammer it home. Like, this girl hates herself now. She thinks she's responsible for countless deaths, and she really isn't. She has no fucking clue. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. And then another almost an iconic moment of gaming at this point. I've never played Final Fantasy at all. I've only watched the remake at this point, but I knew that Aerith dies and Sephiroth kills her. And I think every gamer in the world that survived the 90s and 2000s knows that. Like, it's become one of those things that everybody just knows, that Aerith dies, Sephiroth kills her. However, in the remake, Aerith is still alive at this point, at the end of the remake. There's going to be like a part 2, maybe a part 3 coming out at later dates. But Aerith is still very much alive. And in the remake, they have this cool feature of, like, there are these ghosts kind of throughout the world. and the ghosts are there to make sure that nobody changes what's fated to happen. Like, there's a set timeline, and if you fuck with it, these ghosts are going to be up your ass. You don't really figure that out until the last, 20 minutes of the game. You just see these ghosts everywhere, and they're, helping you sometimes, and then they're hindering you other times. It's really, really trippy. It's really trippy. But my fiance had the observation that maybe these ghosts are just, they're the manifestation of the game developers that are trying to change the original story. And they're trying to do better this time around, or different at least. They're trying to do differently than they did the first time. And I thought that was a really, really cool observation. So we just finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, and then Final Fantasy VII got a prequel game called Crisis Core that shows the Cloud becoming who he is in Final Fantasy VII, as well as another character named Zack. No idea, but I met him briefly in the remake. He shows up in a cutscene. And the Crisis Core got a remake that comes out next week on the 13th of December. So obviously we're going to be picking that up when it comes out, and that's going to be one of our next couch games together. And I really like this new thing we've started doing as some little bonding time. We've also decided that after we beat a game, we go back and forth. So, she had Final Fantasy VII, so then it was my turn. And I'm going to show her what might be one of my favorite series in all of gaming, and that is the Batman Arkham series. Now, if you've listened to this podcast for more than, a week, you know that I love Batman. It's kind of one of my things. But one of the reasons I love Batman so much is because of the amazing storytelling that happens in the Arkham series. The Arkham series was so good that I believe they made a comic book adaptation separate from the video games, so that people that didn't play games but still wanted to consume that story could by picking up the comics. I believe Injustice did a similar thing by excuse me, what's the name? NetherRealm Studios that makes Mortal Kombat. They made a DC fighting game called Injustice, and they put that story in a comic line as well and released that if you wanted to consume it without playing a fighting game. But I'm showing her Arkham Asylum right now. We're actually almost done. It turns out if you just power through the story without bothering with the Riddler trophies, these games are only 12 to 15 hours long, so it's only a few days if we're just sitting down and doing whatever after dinner. But I'm showing her Arkham Asylum, and Arkham is such an amazing storyline, man. Batman is taking Joker back to Arkham, and he's very suspicious. He's like, Joker almost gave up. This is weird. What's going on? And then, surprise, Joker breaks out of custody, and he turns out Harley was there, and she has a head of security badge from the warden's office, and now they've taken over the asylum. And there's a doctor at the asylum named Dr. Penelope Young, and she was using Bane, comic Bane, not Tom Hardy Bane. This is the real one, not that bullshit Nolan Bane. She was using him as a test subject and using the venom from him to create a new drug called Titan that would eliminate the need for a steady supply of the drug to make you all big and muscly. You would just always be big and muscly. It's not quite done, and Dr. Young has a change of heart towards the end of the experiment, and she stops helping Joker with it. She stops taking his money. She tells him, fuck off, I'm done. And that's when he decides to go into the asylum, take it over, and take the drug for himself. And you're tracking down all this. You're putting pieces together. And sure enough, Joker gets it. He doses himself, and the final fight is Batman versus a giant roided-out Joker. And then Arkham City boots up immediately where Asylum left off almost. And Joker is super sick and dying from that Titan that he took. And you've got to help him save himself because he's dosed you. So you're both dying. You got to get that cure put together. And I'll save that whole synopsis for when Red and I go into that game a little more in depth. But, I mean, it's also a fucking, 12-year-old game at this point. Just Google it. You'll be fine. It's not long. But yeah, I'm loving this new plan of playing games together. Like, we already have a list of, like, games that really made an impact on us as people, or games that, like, are just highly reviewed as, like, great couch co-op games that we can play together. Like, she's not big on action shootery games the way I am, so, like, Halo is probably out unless it's one of those games I play that she watches, similar to, like, Gears of War. And I'm not super big on, like, JRPGs as far as playing them, but watching the story, I loved Final Fantasy VII Remake. I really did. I found the combat to be annoying and something I never would have played in my own downtime, but it was a really good way for me to consume that story and that narrative without actually having to touch a controller. I really, really enjoyed it. And I know that's nothing new. Obviously, Let's Plays have existed on YouTube for years and years and years, and people have been watching other people play video games for ages, but it's a much different experience when you're sitting there on the couch together intimately playing something. It's really, really nice. It fills me with the warm and fuzzies. I really like it. And it's if you have a significant other and you both like video games but not necessarily the same video games, maybe try doing this. Maybe try sitting down and you play a game and they watch, and then they play a game and you watch. I highly recommend it as just a social bonding experience for you and your loved one. I highly, highly recommend it. So after I'm done Arkham Asylum, we're going to go to Crisis Core, and which comes out next week, obviously. And then we're going to go to Arkham City, and then she gets to pick a game she hasn't picked yet, and then we're going to finish the Arkham trilogy with Arkham Knight. And I'm super, super excited. I can't wait to play Arkham Knight with her, because that might be my favorite of the Batman Arkham games. Arkham City definitely is really, really good, but Arkham Knight is just fucking miles ahead, which makes me so upset that Gotham Knights was so fucking poorly done. Oh my god. Gotham Knights was supposed to be the game that made me buy a Xbox Series X. It was the game that was going to make me upgrade to the next gen. Because up until now, most games I've wanted to play are on the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X. So I've never felt that drive to get the new console, because I can still play them on my current one. But Gotham Knights was only going to be on next gen. I was super excited. And then it comes out, and it looks like crap. It's absolute crap. It looks like it's fucking Destiny with a Gotham skin on it, and I'm not about that. I fucking hate Destiny and Destiny 2. I tried really hard to get into them. I just can't fucking do it. And props to you if you like that kind of stuff, but it's not for me, man. It's not for me, and I'm really, really upset that Gotham Knights was just so terribly received. What else can I tell you guys about video games right now? I can tell you my fiance, she did actually get me a Series X for Christmas. I'm not allowed to have it until Christmas, but it is sitting under our Christmas tree, all wrapped up nice. I'm probably going to get Deathloop as the first Series X game I download, because that finally came to the Xbox Series X earlier this year. And then next year I got Jedi, the Fallen Order sequel. Comes out in March. I'm going to definitely get that. Oh, I can't freaking wait for that. And then we got Starfield coming out next year. We got some great games coming out next year. Oh, and fucking end of next week, High on Life comes out. High on Life is another awesome game. I watched the 10-minute clip from the E3, I want to say. Some game conference thing. High on Life is a game made by Justin Roiland, the guy who created Rick and Morty, co-created with Dan Harmon. And it's a first-person shooter, and all of your guns are also, like, alive. They have personalities, and they're voiced, and they talk to you and communicate to you. And it seems like a lot of the writing and the comedy in the game comes from, like, your guns talking to, like, you and the universe around you, because you have that thing in most first-person shooters where you are a silent protagonist. So to give a voice to you, in, like, big quotes, they make your guns alive, and that's how the conversations happen. And it also allows you to have multiple different characters to have conversations with. Personally, I love Rick and Morty. I love it so much. The fan base can be really cringy and toxic, which is why I don't, like, affiliate with them. I think the obsession is ridiculous. I feel like I've seen too many grown-ass adults screaming Pickle Rick in public that I'm just like, nah, fuck you guys forever. I mean, I'm just going to casually enjoy this thing over here. But I could absolutely get behind playing a first-person shooter with Rick and Morty style humor and dialogue all throughout it. And, like, they have a lot of really awesome guest actors doing voices as well. Jennifer Hale, who's one of, like, the biggest names in female voice acting. She was FemShep in Mass Effect. She's the new voice of Bayonetta. Like, she's fucking huge, and she's, like, the first big boss you have to fight. They got JB Smoove doing the voices of one of the guns. They have... Oh, shit, his name escapes me, but he's one of the co-creators of Smiling Friends. A similar vein, it just popped up on HBO Max, I think, last year, maybe the year before, but it's a very new show, and it's fucking exploded in popularity. And the guy who does Charlie, who's a co-creator of Smiling Friends, he's in it as a couple of side characters. His voice is also very recognizable when you hear it. It's awesome. I'm super, super excited for that game. Totally forgot it came out next week. It's one of those games that I showed to my fiance, and she was immediately like, you can't play this without me. This is going to be Red Dead all over again. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. So it looks like we might have two games we're trying to play together at the same time. I think that's it for my little solo video game chat. It was nice talking to you all. I miss talking into my microphone. Hopefully D heals up and comes back to me stronger and better than ever. Troy, gets home from his cruise eventually, and we can sit down and talk about movies and TV shows like the good old days. And I don't need to pay rent on servers that aren't hosting anything. Thank you all for listening, especially. You guys are the reason I do this. Truly. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting the podcast. That's it. That's all she wrote. Have a wonderful day. I missed the button. There we go. Gonna edit that to make me look good, if I remember. I probably won't remember.